Sunday to everybody. I am Owen Headley, and I am looking very forward to this presentation today. I'm very excited to be back with the wonderful people that make up the Wake Up. So please take your shoes off, have a cup of coffee if that's your choice of morning beverage, water, relax, sit back. And this is a comfortable space that we're in, and I am looking forward to sharing my stories and most importantly, hearing your stories. So please just make it a happy Sunday. I'm very excited to be here.
Owen, can you repeat that for those who just joined in Facebook?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am Owen Headley. I'll be your facilitator today for day 366. So glad to be back with the Wake Up community as we discuss an important topic, a topic that's near and dear to me. Hopefully, it will not only distribute knowledge, but also receive knowledge from the people in this wonderful community. I've always loved being part of this community. It's very near and dear to me for very personal reasons. I have friends in it, family, and I look at all of us as friends and family anyway. So please just kick up your feet, grab a cup of coffee if that's your beverage of choice. If not, a water, cranberry juice, whatever makes your Sunday morning fruitful. And let's have a great 90-minute session for the Wake Up.
Your Zoom community has entered.
Good morning, Zoom community. Good morning.
Peace and blessing. Good morning, family.
Peace and blessings.
Good morning. Welcome, welcome. It is so good to be back. It is wonderful to be back with the Wake Up community. Happy Sunday to everybody. Morning. See who we got going on here today. Good morning, Teresa. Wow, there we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Shawnee, good morning. So good to be back. Thank you for having me. Hope everybody's waking up on the right side of the bed. You know, it's early. Believe it or not, I've been up for almost 4 hours already. I'm an early bird. I get up about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wake up everybody, it's time to get up. Wake up everybody, it's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. We're healing, we're dealing, we're growing. Together, together, releasing. We're teaching, we're moving. Together, together, we're learning, discerning, we're striving. Together, together, we're leading, connecting, transforming. Together, together.
Can you unmute yourself,
Owen,
Owen?
unmute.
That was powerful. I love hearing that. That was beautiful. Welcome everybody to another edition of Wake Up. I got to tell you how excited I am to be here in this space with this community. As I said earlier, it's very personal to me in a sense where my beautiful cousin Chantel Gamble is on this crew, and that's my homie, and you know, to be able to connect and meet some great people and be able to discuss important topics in our community. Sometimes these topics actually, for many reasons, which we'll discuss, go unsung in our community. So to have a space and a group of talented, passionate people to make our voices heard is something that's really, really, really incredible to me. So I'm gonna go back in time a little bit and kind of discuss what I talked about in my first half-hour segment of Wake Up. Seems like an eternity ago, so it is really great to be back. The topic is called "Let's Be Real, Brothers Can Feel," and to me, there's no better name for that, because what I'm going to speak about is really something that is a pandemic. And I know we've all gotten through a disastrous pandemic from 2020, but this pandemic has been going on for centuries. And it is the pandemic of mental illness when it comes to our community, the Black community, most notably in men. And I am someone, a little bit of my backstory, someone who suffers from mental illness. And it took a while, call it pride, call it ignorance, in the sense where I didn't have all the information that I needed to address what I was going through. Whatever you may call it, it was something that I had to address for my own well-being. And it became something I became passionate about. So I am someone who I can not only speak to it, but I live it every day. And it's no different than when you have a person who is trying to wean themselves or rehab off of a drug. It is an everyday thing. Every day is day one. And without the proper means, whether it be a great positive support system, medicinal, if you so choose to go that route, and we'll talk about some of that stuff, whether you feel that you want to go through more of a earthy type spiritual, we'll talk about that stuff. It has to be addressed because, unfortunately, because of a lot of social and economic issues, it just was not addressed in our community. And I have made it my passion to address these mental illness issues that we have in our community. And again, most notably in men. So a little bit about myself and why I decided to do that. I was going through a very, very difficult time as far as health wise. And I was kind of feeling sorry for myself a little bit. And it wasn't until I started to um, receive the radiation for my illness that I started to notice a very, very different change in my demeanor. Now, obviously, the very first thing you think about was the person's going through radiation. He's probably just upset about it, but it wasn't even really that. To tell you the truth, the radiation did make me weak physically, but I don't think it was making me weak mentally. I started to withdraw from the world, started to really quote unquote turn my back on society and got into a space where I felt better alone. And it wasn't until the night, and I can remember the night like it was yesterday. It was November 10th, 2010. I decided that I was going to leave this earth. This was the last day for me to be on this earth, because this, and I like to say now, this ping pong game that I was playing with myself. And if you're playing a game with yourself, you're never going to win. It's just a battle who can last the longest. And I just couldn't take it. So I went to the local liquor store and I bought a handle of Captain Morgan spiced rum. And I was going to take the medication that I was using to get myself well. And that was it. So I'm sitting in my bedroom all alone, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And I got 2 text messages. The first text message said, "Hey, haven't talked to you in a while. Give me a call. Hope to hear from you soon. Dash mom." That was my mother. And my mother wasn't really familiar with the fact that like caller IDs on a cell phone. So she put dash mom. That's her thing. And it actually made me laugh. And then the second text message was like, "Hey, I know we don't speak as much as we used to. And I just want you to know that, you're loved. And I hope you're doing well." And that was from the woman who I eventually wound up marrying. So those 2 text messages inadvertently saved my life, because it taught me something that to this day I tell people: you may be in a space where you may not love yourself, but you are loved by other people and you are important to other people. So that was a tough night. It was a tough night for me. It was a very tough night. Whereas I laughed, I cried, I looked at this bottle, I looked at those pills, and, you know, just a bundle of emotion just came out. And the cool thing about it, though, was that after all the laughing and all the crying, I'm sitting on my knees praying to God, like, if I do this, is it, will you still take me? I mean, it was a lot of emotion. And I looked up and the sun was out. And I was like, wow, that was real. And the point of that, the sun coming out, was very important because it was a new day. And I made it through what I still call the worst night of my life. And it was at that point, guys, that I decided that something needed to be done. Like there was something very wrong with the way I've been feeling. And it's something that I couldn't fix myself. So I started to seek therapy, and I actually started to study on my own as well. And this is what I'm going to be discussing today, because there are a lot of reasons why mental illness, especially in our community, is a problem. That's a major problem. And there are some factors that can lead to why this is. And there are 5 major factors in my mind that lead to mental illness and why it is not addressed the way it should be in the Black community versus other communities. The very first one is it's a lack of provider for cultural competency. Now, what that means is we don't really have a lot of people in the field of psychiatry that look like us. I think about only 1.5% of people who specialize in psychiatric treatments are Black. So we don't really have people who can identify with what we're we're going through. And there are a lot of things, and we'll get to that later, that can, excuse me, that can lead to your progression into a deep, dark place where I was and where many other people have been. So what that means is we don't have the wherewithal to realize that there are, and when I say wherewithal, I don't mean that we just don't know, we just aren't provided with that information. The stigma of what a psychiatrist looks like, and most people think that, especially in talking to a lot of the people that I have counseled and people that I have lectured and helped one-on-one, their thought process about a psychiatrist is he's an old white man with a white coat. And that is something that we've been led to believe because we haven't been provided with that information. So that's the first thing that we need to understand, is that we just don't have a provider of cultural competency. We don't have people who understand our culture, who understand a lot of the struggles that us and our forefathers and foresisters have gone through. And we shy away from it because we just have this thought as to what our idea of what a psychiatrist looks like, and we just don't feel comfortable. So it's really a comfort thing. In order to be able to address these issues, you have to be comfortable in a sense that you have the issues to address. And some people just, because of the lack of faces that look like us and in that field, it just goes by the wayside. The next one is violence. Now, we are a community that has suffered not only personal violence, but we've also, because of the times that we've been through, whether it be from the 50s, 60s, even now, we're more subjected to seeing violence happen. And with that being said, when we see violence, extra exposure to violence can actually lead to mental health conditions. You can have post-traumatic stress syndrome, where if someone, it happens just to be walking down the street and they see someone become a victim of violence, or if they're a victim of violence themselves, that PTSD is something that can lead to depression. African-American children, especially young African-American men, are unfortunately exposed to more violence than any other person in any other racial community. And that is just a fact. The numbers are staggering as to how much violence our community sees versus any community, whether it be Asian, whether it be white, Latino. We are subjected to seeing and actually being victims of more violence. And that post-traumatic stress disorder can lead to a lot of depression. Another one is poverty. Now, when I say poverty, that doesn't mean because you're broke, you're depressed. It's a lot different than that. Please don't think that mental illness is only segregated to people who don't have means. That's not what this is about. It is more in a sense where, just because of the times, whether it may be money circumstances, whether it may be lack of opportunity when it comes to being picked over for a job, which leads to lack of insurance to be able to address these issues. It's documented that mental illness is a major part when it comes to just not having the means to address it. And if you don't have, unfortunately, if you don't have a job, it's kind of a chain. Don't have a job, you're not afforded the luxury of having insurance, and that way you don't have the means to address these issues. So certain financial circumstances, and even just the fact that we all know that it's very, very, very difficult. Times are starting to change, but obviously when you are Black in this country, your job opportunities are a lot more thinner than any of your other counterparts. You have to work harder, you have to jump higher, you got to run faster, You just got to do a lot of different things. And those facets can also lead to mental illness because you're always, quote unquote, walking on eggshells. Religious beliefs is another reason why mental illness does not get addressed in our community. And rightfully so. I'm not sure, and I'll put that out there as a question. Is everybody out there familiar with the Tuskegee experiment? And if you are, you can just drop a yes, or I'll explain to it what it is. The Tuskegee experiment, to put it briefly, is when the government actually misled a lot of Black men into being experimented on. Look it up if you're not familiar with it. It's really something that has to this day really shaped the thought process of medicinal help. And I'm going to get into the medicinal stuff. And I'm also going to, like I said earlier, I'm going to get into the another way if you choose not to go that medicinal route. So this experiment was going on for decades. So they were basically destroying our people by having these experiments done. And especially a lot of the older men that I talked to refused to take any type of medicine, and even including up until now the corona virus vaccination, because they've either had their relatives who were parts of that experiment, or they just have heard so many horror stories about that experiment that they just refuse to use any type of medication, especially medication where there's an injection. They just won't do it. Because of this, a lot of religious outlets, Baptist and a lot of other ones, Episcopalian, they really don't want mental illness addressed in the sense where it should be done through doctors who, in all honesty, you really can't trust if they're doing the right thing by our people. And the number one reason, and it probably won't surprise any of you guys, the number one reason as to why mental health in America, in the Black community, is not where it needs to be as far as being addressed, as far as being treated, and really as far as working towards a quote unquote cure for it, is racism. And I can tell you from my own experiences, I have been the victim of racism, and in some way or another, all of you have as well. And racism, as much as they may want to say that it doesn't exist, or it's not as bad as we're making it out to be, racism plays a major part in not addressing mental illness. It's history and it's fact. Scientists have studied this. Now, the reason that racism plays a part is, let's give you a scenario. You have a young Black man. He's suffering from mental illness. The circumstances in which he lives in, he cannot afford the treatment. Doesn't trust doctors anyway, because most of the doctors that he has either seen or can envision are those white men in the white coats. The belief of the Tuskegee experiment, which is a major factor, as I stated, religious beliefs doesn't let that happen. So he's going through all of these things. He's playing this ping pong game in his mind. The rest of society doesn't look at him and say, hey, maybe he may be suffering from mental illness, whether it be anxiety, whether it be depression. He's automatically labeled as schizophrenic. Automatically. Why his counterpart, a young white man, may be suffering from the same exact symptoms as he, but he may be suffering from mental illness, and we need to get him help. See the comparison here? Well, it's not really a comparison. You see the way that it's looked upon as from a Black person who may have mental illness versus a white person. It's clearly racism. And they'll look at a person who may be suffering from mental illness in the Black community, he's angry, he's complaining. It's always going to be he's a victim of the times. There's always an excuse as to why that person is doing what he does, versus the fact that, let's sit him down, let's, give him the same testing, the same consultation that we would give his white counterpart, and, see if there's something we can do. It's automatically labeled as schizophrenia. And that is a fact. It is a sad fact, but we are labeled differently for when we have these mental illness issues. Now, I brought up this scenario last time, and I like to touch on it again because it's something that a friend of mine experienced. I had a brother that I was working with who is now starting to address his mental illness. At the time, he wasn't. Again, could have been a male pride thing. One of the things that in my studies and my experiences with working with people who are going through mental illness in our community is it's also almost, especially for men, me being one of them, I could tell you this is what I thought as well. It can be taken as a sign of weakness. Like, mental illness can be taken as a sign of weakness. And I'll tell you a quick story. So I have a friend who was driving, and if you've ever been behind a car, especially if you're Black, your anxiety level is going to be at a high anyway. I know to this day, I have what I can call my mental police radar, where I can just feel that they're there and you just get tensed up. So he got pulled over. Now, at the time, he didn't realize he suffered from anxiety and from depression. So he had an anxiety attack when he was pulled over. Now, that is something that obviously the officer pulling him over would not know. So while he's sweating and while he's shaking because he's very afraid, based on the circumstances of our times that he's getting pulled over, his thought process was, this kid, I might not go home. Based on the circumstances and the statistics, I may not go home. So he's sweating, he's shaking. Police officer, not knowing that he was suffering from mental illness, his first thought process was, what are you hiding? What do you got? Lucky for him, he got through that situation. The cop did do a full search of his car because he was shaking, he was sweating. But that's another incident in which further enhanced his mental illness because it was another traumatic experience as a Black man. So I'd love to hear from some of you guys and hear some experiences. I'm going to take a look and see. I'm looking at Stacy. Hi, Stacy. How are you? Stacy writes.
Hi.
Stacy, you wrote, there is also a history of using mental health diagnosis, specifically, yep, exactly, schizophrenia, as a reason to put Black men in mental health institution. I did read, that's a great book. I'm glad you actually mentioned that because I was actually going to mention that book as well. The Protest Psychosis, How Schizophrenia Became a Black Disease, charts the use of that diagnosis. You're 100% right. I touched on it a little bit, but again, we get labeled as schizophrenic instantaneously. It's a reason for the government, or a lot of these institutions are state controlled, to put Black men into these prisons, diagnose them as schizophrenia, and then the horror stories that I'll get into. One horror story from a person that actually spent time in an institution.
So Owen, before you do that, can we actually ask Stacy to elaborate on what you shared to
sure.
build on the conversation?
Sure.
Thank you. Stacy, are you able?
I'm able to be off mute, but not on camera. So yeah, the book is incredible. It's interesting once he gets to the issue about how it's used to target Black men. But he goes further back into the history of that diagnosis and shows that it was actually originally used as a way to control white women. And so he charts the transition from how can we keep white women quiet and docile by shoving them into mental health institutions, to switching over to how do we control Black men who have the nerve to oppose authority or have a nerve to protest against racism. Let's diagnose them as schizophrenic. And he even shows like different ad campaigns for the same medications from when they were used to target white women to when they were used to target white men, or sorry, Black men. And the images used in those ads are so shocking that it's so obvious that this is just done because we are racist against Black men. Like, it's like, oh, here's an ad campaign that will make all Black men look like crazed animals, and so they need to be medicated and put away. It's really an amazing book.
It is. It's amazing. And tell me if you agree, Stacey. It's also scary in the book.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things that I thought of when I read it, so I'm in my late 50s. I have an older brother who has spent his life being an angry young man. Even though he's now 60, he's still a pretty angry man. And as I'm reading it, and I'm reading the case studies that he charts in this book, I'm thinking, this could be my brother. The situations that the men he's describing in this book are going through, my brother has gone through. And it's just by chance, by grace, by luck, that he was not in that situation. And that was really, that shook me up.
Yeah, it's almost mind-boggling how and when you're reading that book, I as a Black man myself, I actually put myself in some of those scenarios, and versus some of the stories that I've heard from people who have spent time in those institutions, even the treatment of Black men inside the institution is totally different as far as it goes with the way white people are treated versus the way Black people are treated. I had a brother who was in there and suffered from anxiety attacks. He actually went days without being seen by a doctor, days. He was breathing heavy. I know the only person he saw would be the person that brought in his water and his food. He went days without being seen by a doctor. And to his dismay, a person who was not too far off from him saw a doctor every day, and he knew the person was white. So even the treatment inside of the facilities is totally different. I do think that the thought process when it comes to Black men, as Stacey stated, is that they're just angry Black men. They'll spend a little bit of time in here, they'll calm down, and we'll let them out. That's just not how it works. I saw another one that I wanted to touch on. It was about treatment. I'm trying to find it. The questions are coming in. I don't know if you're on, but you brought up the question actually went away. It was about the indigenous treatment. And like, I don't know if you're on. You had asked the question disappeared, but it was about the entheogen treatment, plant-based treatment. Well, I can touch on it.
That's Kamal Patar. He says, what are your thoughts about entheogen and indigenous modalities to address trauma in our community?
I'm a fan of it, 100%. I will tell you, I will never tell anyone not to go to a doctor and follow the medicinal route. But I will tell you that a lot of plant-based and also a lot of essential oil treatment has helped me. I have and still do take medication for mine. But with that being said, I have a doctor who tells me that the goal of taking the medication is to slowly wean yourself off of it. So I do, and I will be speaking about a lot of essential oils a lot of plant-based methods you can take. And I will tell you, there are certain people that I have recommended, and I'm not a licensed doctor, but it was just recommended based on opinion that they asked, that certain strands of marijuana and CBD, they really do help ease that trauma. It's not just a drug that, and again, that's another stigma that has been put in our community, that, we tend to, just use drugs for the sake of using them, and then we abuse them, which is not accurate. Marijuana and CBD, there are different strands. I've studied all the different strands of them. There are certain ones that are the quote unquote party drugs, but there are also ones that do help with anxiety. They do help with nervousness. They help with a lot of migraines. There's certain medicinal things you can use. And these oils that I use, they've helped me a lot. And I can discuss some of them, and I will later. They've helped me a lot with, just basic anxiety, where you just rub oil, some of these essential oils on your body, or you can even, take a sniff of them. So I'm a big fan of that stuff. I think that if you can go a route of mental healing without having to, especially if there's someone who's going through it, who is a recovering addict, if you can go that route without having to be dependent upon a clinical pill or or any kind of medication, I would strongly suggest that. And again, I only suggest and only give opinions. I'm not a licensed doctor, but I've gone both routes, and I have found that through using these oils and using a lot of these other plant-based, whether it be plant-based like vegan supplements, stuff like that, it's helped me a lot in dealing with my mental illness.
There's a comment from Jessica Black in Facebook. She says, I'm an Army veteran and I suffer from non-combat PTSD. Females in the military that complain of stress are treated terribly sometimes. We're told to stop nagging, suck it up, and drive on. So a lot of us veterans as a whole learn to hide our symptoms until it's too late. It oftentimes takes a tragedy for our voices to be heard and to get the psychiatric and psychological help we need. She also says, because Veterans Affairs doesn't seem to want to compensate us for our trauma, many veterans don't see a need to seek help after separating from the military.
Yeah, that's deep. And first and foremost, thank you for your service and your dedication to defending our country. I actually have spoken to many veterans, both men and women, minority veterans, Latino, Asian, African American, where when it comes to women, some of these people that I've spoken to within the community have either treated or have seen mistreatment of women when it comes to that. And I say this, and I'm only saying this as part of the conversation. A lot of the kickback is like, oh, you know what? She'll have 1 week out of the month and then she'll be fine. And that's just the thought. That's just the thought process when it comes to women in the military. I've heard the suck it up thing. I've heard the, stop being a nag. I've heard that you're just not mentally strong enough or physically strong enough to do what a man can do. And that's just absolute nonsense. And imagine the stress of not only being in the military, not knowing where you're going to go, if you're not seeing your family or your friends for months, sometimes years at a time. And then putting on top of that you're a female in the military, the percentages of sexual harassment that you go through, the lack of promotions that you go through, how you get overlooked as far as being a woman in the military. And if you put your mental illness and your anxiety, depression, along with that, it can be very difficult. The one thing I did not know, and I'm glad I took a note on that, I did not know that Veterans Affairs does not want to compensate that. That I did not know, that you did not get compensated for that. So that's a real good thing. I took a note on that. I'm actually going to read up on that, because that can, to your point, Charmaine, that can lead to people just not talking about it if it's not going to get treated. And why put something on record if it's not going to get treated? And then people try to deal with it themselves, and sometimes they may deal with it the wrong way.
So that's it. We pretty much covered it. Jacqueline has added in, she knows a lot of young Black men who can use cannabis to help them cope.
Yes. I recently was on a podcast called Chana Cat, and we were discussing the sciences of how cannabis can ease mental illness, especially when it comes to anxiety. There are certain strands of cannabis that doctors have deemed very, very, very good for anxiety, especially, which unfortunately cannabis cannot. If you're in what I call a depressive funk, cannabis cannot help that. There's just going to be good days and bad days. Cannabis really, really kind of touches on the anxiety, which is actually better, because if you're already in a depressive funk, if you throw an anxiety attack into that, that can lead you down a dark path, and some people do not come back from that. So I've studied and looked up a lot of these strands, and please feel free to reach out to me as far as the names of the strands and stuff like that. But and this is why you're seeing it legalized going throughout the country. It's legal here where I live at in Massachusetts. I know that my home city of New York just legalized it. The problem with the legalization of marijuana, it's a money game. They want to tax you significantly for the use of marijuana. I know someone who actually works at a dispensary, and was actually on the forefront of working to get marijuana legalized in Massachusetts. And she said it straight up. And this is a white woman who was very active in the community trying to get marijuana legalized. She saying that it's twofold. The government wants to tax it so they can make as much money on it as possible. But in her opinion, they're also taxing it because they don't want people in minority communities, Spanish, Black, and Latino people, to be able to afford it. And when I heard that, I never thought about that, but they're making the drug, if you will, availably unavailable to people in our community. But it is being worked on. They are going to work on lessening the tax. Like here, if you go to a dispensary and you buy any kind of cannabis, you're literally getting hit with 20% sales tax. And that's actually going to be cheaper than it is in New York. New York is probably going to hit you with 30 to 35%. So they're making it available, but almost unaffordable to a lot of people who aren't going to spend hundreds of dollars on marijuana. But yes, it does help, and it is something that I do recommend. If you don't want to go that route, you can always go with CBD. That's a healing method that doesn't have the THC strands like marijuana does. But it's no longer taboo. It's something that people are looking at. Doctors are studying it. There's a lot of healing in it, especially when it comes to mental illness.
Owen, I got word that there's a brother in the space that'd like to ask a question. Timothy, are you able to come off of mute? Timothy. All right, let me ask you, invite you. And who else? Let's invite some other space voices into the space. So
yes, please.
I'm looking in the chat. Terry, would you like to say something? You just put something in the chat, so maybe you can elaborate.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not able to be on camera, but yes, I do believe that the legalization has to do with the taxation, but I also believe that it has to do with our white counterparts were getting, should we say, in trouble when they test for jobs and they were coming up positive for marijuana. So they're trying to look at ways that they can legalize it so that the group that they don't want to be marginalized can be not be negatively impacted by it.
That's a brilliant point. And it's a point that I've had conversations about. And there's nothing false about what you're saying. I work in an industry where you get random drug tests, and the majority of the people who do fail these tests, whether it be for marijuana or stuff other than marijuana, if you will, are white. And to your point, I believe that making marijuana legal, it will. Now, the one thing about certain businesses, like they still have the authority to test for it. They still have the ability to if you fail, to either one, terminate you, or two, suspend you, whatever it's to do. So it's not a blanket that's covering every single company. Eventually it will be, but to your point, there definitely is some correlation to the majority of white people who are failing drug tests, um, who are getting in trouble, who are losing these jobs, and if you correlate that with the actual taxes that I told you about, they're doing a lot of things to make it easier for our white counterparts to not lose jobs, to not get in trouble with this stuff. And it's very scary. Marijuana is a very, very, very gray business, if you will. Now, um, I'm someone who goes to a legal dispensary to get it. I'm willing to pay for the CBD and then pay the taxes, only for the simple fact that one, going the illegal route would mean more trouble for me than it would for someone from another community to go to the illegal route. But there are still a lot of people who are going that route, the street pharmacist route, because they just can't afford it. But you are 100% right when it comes to that. I've seen it myself. The division that I work in, I actually am responsible for submitting those random drug tests to people, and you can tell, where they may wait a day to go. We're supposed to go immediately, but they may wait a day to go. They may wait 2 days to go. But now, as we gravitate towards marijuana, not even being looked at as a drug, if you will, in that sense, that's a brilliant point. Thank you for sharing that.
Teresa Scott has her hand up.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Senator Sanders and Queens just had a recent conference in May, and they were saying that it's a business that not just for people getting it, but also you can get into the business. They have not given out the information, but in Queens, one of the things that they did was that they said Queens Defenders was on it. They said it's no longer a felony, but a lot of the what do you call it, parole officers are not letting their clients know that it's no longer a felony. So they was telling people to call the Queens Defenders office, and they could assist them with getting some help as long as you didn't have a what do you call it, any other crime besides marijuana, that it would no longer be a felony. So now it's like a misdemeanor. So there are a lot of people that might be who's living in New York, because it was like a really big conference, a whole bunch of people, and they were just showing how
you can get into the business, but they have not put back, they haven't done like a follow through, but it was amazing. And I actually got into like to a big argument with some of my, I live in Niger, and some of them, was fussing with me. They was like, oh, why would you want to tell them? I was like, because a lot of our young black men and young women are in prison. Um, so what the people that were in the group that I was talking to in my TA board, they were saying, oh, you're just trying to give them a license. I said, but no, but the majority of the people that are in jail are our young men and young women in jail. And so now to know that they don't have to be in prison, or it's no longer a felon, because I used to be a felon, and now they're making laws that it's no longer going to be a felon. So, I got into like a really big debate with them, but I just let them talk and say whatever. But I just feel that because at one time, like if you were smoking a joint, everyone, it was like a serious crime. But now, the cops, when the cops come by my building, they just be looking at the people. They don't even say nothing. So I know that, something that's serious going on, especially here in New York. A lot of other states have not, but New York is the first state that's making it where you could actually get jobs and different things, but they have not done a follow through. But it was like a whole list of companies and organizations that came on that particular day, but it was really, really good. But I know the Queen's Defenders was one of the organizations that was saying that we need to inform people and let them know that it's no longer a felon, but it's now become a misdemeanor. But a lot of people didn't know, and the parole officers were not telling them. So that was really, amazing to hear. But some people just feel like they want to penalize the people. But I just told them, I said, it's like it's a mentality that people have, and they just, this is the way that they've been living, and so we have to teach them. We have to show them other ways besides criminalizing them, because they don't feel confident to get jobs, whatever. But it was a lot of information. But I do know that the Queen's Defender's Office in Queens was assisting people who had criminal issues with it, and they were assisting them and helping them with information. So that was one good thing that I got of it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And you're right in a sense where they're not really, they say they're following through. The problem that we're having, and the arguments that that are being had, and discussions that I've had as well, are whether or not a lot of these felonies should be expunged, um, because of the fact that through the legalization of marijuana, it's no longer a felony to have to possess. The big argument that we're facing is that when it was illegal, that the law was broken, that just because it's legal now doesn't mean at the time when said person was arrested, should go away, because at the time it was illegal. Now the problem with that is I look at it everything as like a case by case scenario. Like you said, you have some people who may have got arrested, for just having a joint in their car, and their records are as clean, as the next person. But because it's a quote unquote felony, job opportunities. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? You have to put yes in your application. No matter how educated you are, no matter if you made that one mistake, even if you were in the car with someone who had who had the joint, you weren't even holding the joint. A lot of missed opportunities for career advancement, for jobs, schools. There are certain schools that won't take you. You have that on your record as well. So that's the argument. And do I believe that those should be expunged? I think you touched on it. I think it should be a case by case scenario where if there's a person who has multiple felonies other than just marijuana, then we have to look at that a little bit differently. But if you have, one hit, so to speak, on your record where you were caught with a joint or you were possession of marijuana, that should be something that should be discussed, especially if that was the only thing on your record, you've done nothing since. But again, the laws are, especially when it comes to stuff like this, the laws are bent and shifted to affect who they want it to affect. Let's be honest, a majority of the people who do get arrested for possession of marijuana are young Black men. And unfortunately, their livelihoods have been affected because of the fact that they can't get the same advances or the same be put in the same situations as far as like economic growth, social growth, even within people within their own community have a better chance. So if you're talking about the fact that if you have a Black man who has no marijuana arrest on his record, that he's finding it almost impossible to compete in America to get a job. Imagine the Black person that has just that one hit on their record. It's almost twice as much. So now we're battling ourselves in our own community to get jobs that neither one of us have a high percentage of getting anyway. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle. But yes, that was an excellent point. I'm looking. Do we have anybody else?
Yes, Jessica Black from
So
Facebook. Go ahead, Nigel.
I was going to share Jessica Black's comment as well, Kenyofu, and then I had a comment myself. So Jessica Black on Facebook says, to me, the biggest issue with mental illness in the Black community is denial. It is not the miseducation of it or the lack of information about it. I think a lot of us know we have issues that need to be addressed, but our culture has yet to fully embrace the idea of being diagnosed with a mental illness. And so what I wanted to also share about that was shame and fear is also issues that are present in our community around mental illness. Speaking personally, you know, I mentioned to someone, and I remember growing up, my brother was seeing, he had a therapist. My brother was a young, angry Black boy, and he was constantly in the principal's office for fighting or just creating disturbances. And my parents, their position was he was bored and he was acting out because he was bored. He was being made to sit still all day and he needed to move. And so, they sought out a therapist. And so my brother was seeing a therapist, but it was something that I don't remember being told not to share it with with our community, with other, like our external family members, like cousins and etc. But it was something that we did not share with others. And recently, my son, I sought out a therapist because he doesn't emote. He doesn't speak, and he speaks, but he just has a hard time expressing himself verbally. And so, I thought maybe having a therapist might help him with that. And I will tell you, there were people in our own family, as enlightened as I thought we were, that were just so shameful about that and thought that that was something that we should not do. Number one, you shouldn't be talking to anyone about what's happening with you or your family. And then two, just the fear around, well, what if someone knows? So there is a lot of denial in our communities around mental illness, denial about what we know to be true or what we think is true, and then shame in seeking out assistance or support from a licensed therapist. Or, if you do decide for yourself, for your child, or for yourself, that medication is something that you want to explore, then, there's shame around that. Others will shame you for taking medication and just the whole fear. So, excuse me. So, there are a lot of things, a lot of hurdles, I'll say, in our community as it relates to mental illness that prevent us from getting well.
Before I answer what you're gonna say, I have to tell you that I love your t-shirt. I'm a t-shirt fanatic. I have almost 3,000 retro t-shirts, and I love your t-shirt. But first of all, thank you for that. I'm going to agree with probably 97% of what you said. I do believe that in our own community that there is and as I mentioned earlier on, it's looked at as a sign of weakness. There is a pride issue. There is for some reason there is a stigma in our community that going to get help from a therapist is admitting that you're weak. It's just giving you another or giving them another reason to think that like we are just a poor example of society. I totally understand. But the one thing I will tell you that I do disagree with is the information part. The information is not out there for members of the Black community the way it is for the white community. I'll give you an example. You guys ever watch any of those commercials where you see like the swimming guy, which is Michael Phelps? Then there's like the basketball player, I believe it was Kevin Love, who has spoken openly about um, mental illness. The quote is, "It's okay to be okay." That's not accurate in our community because I will tell you, in working with people who are NBA players and talking with people, I'll give you an example. Michael Phelps admits that he has suffers from mental illness. He speaks out about it. He's a hero. Kyrie Irving, who also, as well as Kanye West, has spoken about dealing with now some of the stuff that they speak about, to your point, they're probably not taking the same steps that they should to get the help, but they've spoken out openly about it and they're vilified. So the reason why a lot of people in our community don't like to speak out and don't like to get the help that they need is just basically a lack of trust and a lack of faith in the fact that if they do address these issues, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Are they suffering from mental illness per a doctor's diagnosis, or the doctor diagnosed them as schizophrenic? It immediately jumps from anxiety, depression, to schizophrenia, and the way it's looked at upon society. Even for someone like a Kanye West or a Kyrie Irving, who have the monetary means to do that, the comparisons are just so night and day when it comes to a Black person who addresses mental illness versus a white person. So it stays taboo in our community because I think there is a fear factor, like you said, as far as going to get the help and seeking the help, because I just don't think that the treatments are the same when it comes to the Black and white community. But that's a great point, and you're right. If we do have more people who, especially men, who are not afraid to speak out about it, not afraid to go into a public forum about it, I think it would be addressed a lot better in our community. But you made a great point as far as like why it's looked down upon, and we have to get over that fear. Like we need to do that. I'm a strong believer that no one is going to extend their hands out to help us until we start extending our hands out to help ourselves. We have to be on the front line in our own community, for the simple fact that, based on my own experiences and people that I've worked with, they're just not going to go into our community and say, hey, here's this. You got to seek the information, seek the knowledge. But to your point, you have to be ready to accept the fact that it's there and it's happening.
Owen, there's in reference to Jessica Black's comment, Jacqueline responded. This is in response to the denial. And then I also want to bring in a comment from the brother who I had mentioned before. So this is Jacqueline's response to Jessica. She says, that may be true, Jessica, but because of the use of that label as a weapon against Black people is one of the main reasons that we stigmatize mental illness. The response to us as a people, when we are labeled as such, was incarceration, institutionalization, isolation, and exclusion. It's not just a cultural reaction, it's a reaction based on real societal consequences. And the brother, you mentioned about helping ourselves, and he's incorporating marijuana from the perspective of entrepreneurship. And he's labeled as steel, sharp, and steel, love. So with marijuana being more accessible and legal, many brothers, specifically Black youth, are attaining entrepreneurship. Do you believe since marijuana has become legal, the quality of it has decreased and we are uneducated on what we consume as a people? What considering steps can Black folk do to get our hands on agriculture? For example, growing our own. And what are your thoughts on the recent Sha'Carri Richardson incident? And what's your rebuttal on specific companies penalizing and criminalizing marijuana?
The first thing I will touch on is and we got caught up in another question, and I didn't really get a chance to address it before, but somebody had also kind of mentioned when it came to like the business aspect of it. Ask yourself this question: how many Black farmers do you see on TV? How many Black cooking shows do you see on TV? Entrepreneurship in our community is something that needs to be on the forefront. I look at it like this. I have a friend who is a grower of marijuana. He grows it out here in Massachusetts. I've known him for years. Grow it yourself, because to your point, if it is now being controlled by the government, the levels of THC, not only to mention the different types of toxins that they're probably going to put in it, is going to devalue what it may do to you. Some dispensaries will tell you that, like, hey, this one here might be $1 more expensive, but this one came from, because where we're at, we have two ways. It comes from the government, but it also comes homegrown. So always go homegrown. But as far as getting into the entrepreneurship of it, I would highly recommend buying stock in it. Before it becomes watered down and the stock prices become extremely high. If you have a means to get your hands on the materials, if you want to get into the entrepreneurship of it, reach out to me and I can put you in contact with my friend who is absolutely growing it. He's absolutely looking to open up his own dispensary, primarily in Black neighborhoods to make it affordable. He's also a farmer. He's a Black farmer. He's growing his own fruits. He's growing his own vegetables, and he's growing his own marijuana. I was recently at his house a couple of weeks ago and saw the greenhouse. It's a process. It's an expensive process that a lot of people shy away from because of the fact that to get started, you need to build a greenhouse. You have to keep it at a certain temperature, and just the tools that you have, getting started, just like with any hobby or any type of business, it just takes money to have it. But it's something that I totally recommend. And as far as it goes with the incident, when it comes to I'm going to tell you this, and I've never been a fan of the Olympic Committee. The Olympic Committee is biased. The Olympic Committee is racist. The Olympic Committee is money hungry. They make billions while the athletes make nothing. They make most of their money off endorsements and only if they're good. So for her to admittedly was going through a situation in which she used marijuana in a state, mind you, in a state that was legal, she absolutely has a case. She absolutely, for Sha'Carri, absolutely has a case. She absolutely should be on the Olympic team. Unfortunately, because of politics, she will not be. But I think it was wrong. And I mean, when you have $1 billion entities like the NFL, who now the NFL is going more the route that they're going to start not penalizing people for marijuana use. But I feel like her marijuana use was legitimate. She was going through a stressful time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe her mom may have passed or someone in her family may have passed. And she used that to kind of calm her nerves. She didn't get any trouble. She did it in the confines of her own home. And she failed a drug test in a state in which marijuana is legal. So if you want my honest, quick opinion, she should be on the Olympic team. And I will not be watching track and field for the Olympic team if she's not going to be on there, because I do not think that she's getting a fair shake. And I honestly do believe if that were a Maria Sharapova or someone else, I think we'd be having a different conversation, or another track and field star of a different color. I think we'd be having a different conversation.
There wouldn't be a conversation because there would not even be made public.
No.
That's my belief, right?
It's,
I want to, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm recognizing that it's 8:08, and with all of the depth of the conversation that we've been having, we did not mention verbally that to acknowledge those who have to leave at 8. So I did put the contact information and the love donation and the special offer in the chat. So please gather that information, and well, we hope to see you tomorrow. Owen, there's 2 hands up. One is Shawnee and the other is Kamal. So I'm going to ask Shawnee to speak.
Greetings. Good morning, Owen. I'm so happy that you are here with us, and this conversation is so rich. And I'm like, oh my God, the time has passed already, and there's so much more to uncover.
It is good to see you, my friend. It is good to see you.
So I wanted to go back, roll it back. It's been mentioned in the chat, and you have shared about it several times in your response to questions and comments. But, you know, there's a very nuanced, multi-layered dynamic when it comes to BIPOC folks, or, you know, for those who are not familiar with the term, Black, Indigenous people of color, and our mental health. And once again, it was mentioned, you know, just how racism plays such a huge part. And when I think about a few of the layers, one of which is internalized racial oppression or inferiority, I wonder sometimes what comes first, the mental illness, and then, you know, the layers of things that unfold, whether it's violence or suicide, because you spoke about your experience of wanting to take your own life, or was it the experiences of how society just, in all its compounded issues for BIPOC folks, just weigh you down, and then you develop a mental illness as a result. When I do anti-racist training, and one of the things that we teach is the tasks of the subjugated. There's also tasks for privileged people, white folks, but there's tasks that we as people of color are invited to consider. And if you don't mind, I'll read them really quickly and just leave this in the space for each person to ponder. So I'm going to ask your permission first before I read them. They're quick, but I don't want to.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So, and I'll put them in the chat so folks are clear. I don't want you to be trying to hear and remember. But tasks of the subjugated, which are Black and brown people who are marginalized, mistreated, racism impacts, you know, on a daily basis. So the first task is to overcome learned voicelessness, to advocate for oneself, one's needs, to challenge the belief that they're not worth speaking up, or that what they have to say is not worthy of hearing. The subjugated have often been taught that silence is golden and don't speak unless spoken to, and the challenge is to unlearn this behavior. So that's task number 1. 2, to learn to exhale the negative messages that have become internalized. They're everywhere, Owen, in community, you know, whether it's you not seeing yourself on shows, or you not seeing yourself in magazines. Now that's shifting, but because of the money game and how they create formulas to appease and please and manifest, we start to see ourselves, but it becomes like more of a formulaic way, not a commitment to addressing and undoing racism. Number 3, to overcome the addiction to protect, educate, or change the privilege, or to change white folks. I'm not here to convince white folks of anything, not here to educate them. In fact, it puts us in danger to try to convince them of our worthiness. And then number 4, to deal with one's own rage. Let me repeat this again. To deal with one's own rage, to channel it appropriately, not to eradicate it, you know, but channel it, like refocus it. And shame is a major stumbling block for the privilege, and rage is a major stumbling block for the subjugated. And me, as a person who's talked about this in the Wake Up space, my rage unchecked and undealt with is a dangerous motherfucking thing. And I do not want my rage to impact my purpose and have me operating from a space of trying to defend and protect myself, so much so that I'm defending and protecting myself from things that really don't exist, the intangible, and then also the things that exist but seem invisible, which is the effect of internalized superiority from white people and racism. And institutional racism is real. So whether it's in the school system or you trying to pursue entrepreneurship, that's not an easy thing when they're like, oh, we got to look at your credit score, but you've never been taught how to negotiate money, so your credit is poor. Or you're trying to engage or go to school, but you don't know how to navigate, systems or the SAT. Like, there's so many layers to stop and block us and keep us subjugated. And also those layers create a dynamic where you can feel helpless, hopeless, and then begin to start operating from this place of, if it doesn't matter, I'm just going to do anything, which can lead to violence against your own people too, and just a lot of layers of instability. And this coming from a family where addiction and mental illness are prevalent, especially on my mother's side, I'm really cautious about just blanketly telling Black folks or people of color, to utilize marijuana, whether it's medical marijuana or not, because I feel like there's other works and layers that need to be done to address our oppressive, the oppression that we've experienced. So it's a slippery slope when folks haven't done the other work, and then they throw medicinal or any type of substance that's mind or mood altering in the mix without doing the other work. So I'm complete. I know that was a lot, but I'm complete.
No, I agree with you on that. And as I had said before, I've studied the strands and the stuff like that. And there are some, like if I was to have a one-off conversation with somebody who's actually interested in going that CBD route, marijuana route, to Shawnee's point, you have to do the work. You can't just say, go smoke a joint, you're going to be okay. That's just not how it works. You hit a lot of points where, as far as it goes in our society, just the outlook of where I'll quote Charles Barkley. And I thought it was funny when I read it. He made a comment, but it's such a vast way of the way things are in our society. When a white coach gets fired from his job in the NBA, they mutually parted ways. When a Black coach gets fired, he got fired. Now, I know if you're what you're asking what that has to do with what we're talking about. It's just the point is, it's just the way things are looked upon in our society, and mental illness is always going to be there. I don't think it's something that it's like a seed. It's like a seed. It's always a seed. If you have that seed planted in your brain, there are certain circumstances that water the seed in which it grows into a plant. Seeing the violence, not being able to have the means to address it, just the trauma. Let's just put it out there and agree with me or not. Just being Black in America is just a stressful thing. It is. We don't have the same opportunities that our white counterparts are afforded. I mean, I'm a college graduate. I gave the student address at my college graduation, and there were many people who felt that it shouldn't have been my position to give the student address, because I was only speaking from the opinion of one particular community, which made absolutely zero sense to me. I was talking about college, SATs. I've taken the SAT, I've taken the LSAT test, and I'll tell you, all of those tests are culturally biased. The only thing universal is math. So there are a lot of other factors that may water the seed of mental illness. And I really do believe that a lot of it, to Shawnee's point, you have to do the work. Like, you have to be able to put in the work. You have to be able to be receptive to the information. And like anything, whether it be addicted to a drug, addicted to alcohol, addicted to anything, you have to be able to say, this is what's going on. It needs to be addressed. But there's just a fear factor in our community that we need to overcome. And it's going to be communities like this and spaces like this where people feel comfortable identifying addressing these issues. I saw a comment saying, you know, where could I go as an African American to like start seeking help? I don't know if that person was speaking about themselves or anyone else. There are a lot of places you can go. I can send you guys some links. Again, reach out to me. I have this information. You can even talk to me one-on-one, and I can counsel you on where to go, who to talk to, whether it be if you're in New York or here in Massachusetts or wherever. There are a lot of, I put in a lot of work to this. I put in a lot of work to do this because I know, and I love what Shawnee said, like, you know, if I don't control my rage, it's not fun for anyone. And that quote, angry black man or angry black woman, it's, you're made to feel that rage. And sometimes there are things that happen in your life where you just get angry. But if you don't control that rage, it could be something that's devastating. So please reach out to me. I have many ways of being. I do one-on-one. I'm a certified personal trainer and a life coach. And for me, this is my healing. Like talking to you guys and getting the information and giving out the information. This is one of the things that I do to channel my mental illness. And as far as it goes, Shawnee touched upon being very cautious about just going the marijuana route. There are other things you can do. I work very closely. How many people, you can just put your hands up or just put yes in the comments, or have worked with or have heard about just essential oils? Essential oils are really good. I've worked very closely with people for the company doTERRA. They've made a lot of oils that are natural. They don't have any of the other products and toxins that some of the other things may have, and they're oils that you can just either breathe. Some of them you could put into water and stuff like that. There's some bioavailable packs that you can go look into. There's just a whole ton of oils, and I recommend the oils for those who don't want to go the marijuana or the medicinal route, because these are pure natural from the earth. You know, they offer a bevy of mood controls without the risk of addiction. And it's a scientific fact that like when you go through like aromatherapy, it gets to your brain a lot quicker than any other a pill or even marijuana. Mind you, we can talk about the uses of CBD and marijuana. That is a route you can go, but there's always caveats to that. By using natural oils, you risk not having addiction. The risk of getting sick through that, you do take a risk getting sick through marijuana. Even though it's a low risk, it's still a risk. Any risk is a risk, whether it's high or low. There's that risk. There's just a lot that these oils that have done for me. So if there are people who are looking to go that route, that want to address it versus going the medicinal route, reach out to me. I work hand in hand with the people from doTERRA. They're a lot more knowledgeable in that stuff than I am, but I can put you in contact with certain people that will do that. So to Shawnee's point, there are so many different routes you can take without having to go to the medicinal or the marijuana route. So I've made myself available to anyone who wants to talk about that. My information is in the chat. I'm very accessible and I'm very personable, and please reach out to me if you have questions about these, about aromatherapy, meditation. There's a link to a 30-minute meditation that I gave called Yoga Nidra. Shawnee actually participated in that Yoga Nidra, so we've made that available to you guys in the space. And then as far as it goes, if there's anything that I like to do, then to harness my aggression, channel that anger when I'm feeling in that mood where I think that today's going to be a bad day, because again, every day is day one. Other than my two daughters and my wife, I like to work out. Like I like to harness that aggression and take that energy, which is causing negativity, and harness it into my own physical, appearance and mental well-being. So my offer, I did offer it last time, and I know that life gets in the way and people get busy. For the month of August, every Saturday. Now I put 7:30 on the time, but I also know that not many people are early birds like myself. I'm up at 3:30 every morning. So we can work on the time if that's a little bit too early. We can do somewhere between 8 and 8:30 if that works best for people. We can change the time. I put 7:30 to see, just as a foundation. I will be giving every Saturday for the month of August free training exclusively to this space and to this group. Please feel free to invite, if you want to make it a morning thing and you want to have a group of your friends or family jump on. We're going to go over in those 4 weeks, we're going to do one session will be yoga. One session will be HIIT, which is high intense interval training, which is just going to get your blood going. One session will be how to use body weight if you don't have weights at home. And then the other session will be a little bit of using weights, and then we'll do some breathing and meditation. So that's the schedule. Please take advantage of it. I love doing it. It's a passion. So yeah.
So this sounds like the time to put the slide up, but before we do that, I did want to check in with Kamal, whose hand was up and down. I think it was because you answered his questions, but I just want to make sure.
Sure.
Kamal, did you have something to share?
He's no longer in the space.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, thank you. So I will put the slide up.
Cool. So here is the offer that I was just speaking about. The Wake Up Everybody participants. You guys are welcome to participate in this. It's a group fitness series. Every Saturday in August. Get ready to sweat. Bring all you would need to bring is a bottle of water and a towel, and just bring some positive energy. The dates would be August 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th at 7 a.m. Again, that's a fluid time. We could negotiate that if we get enough people. We can actually take a poll and see what time works best for people. Some people are early birds, some people are late, but we can find some kind of a happy medium. And just email me or follow me on Instagram if you're an Instagram person. That's probably the best way to get in contact with me. Instagram and texting. I do check emails, but I'll my text messages, obviously I have my phone with me. But also follow me at Owen Headley Fitness on Instagram. You can call me 781-258-7504 is my phone number. I do like having conversations. If texting is better for you, please feel free to text. And then email me at t_durden4545@yahoo.com. And then that link to that 30-minute yoga nidra is available to you as well. It's always going to be there. Please feel free to use it. If you want to participate in any type of meditation, please reach out to me. I can get you started on meditation. I can get you started on yoga. I can get you started personal fitness. And again, the 4 weeks in August are totally free, totally exclusive to the Wake Up community. And also, if you do decide to go a route where you would like to have personal training, I'm not like the other personal trainers. I believe that if you're paying for personal training more than you're paying for groceries, then we got other issues. So I'm always flexible when it comes to fees. I've charged as low as $50 and to as much as whatever. So if you're looking for side personal training, please reach out to me. all fees are negotiable, especially during these crazy times where I know fitness and yoga and meditation have helped me get through this crazy pandemic. And then we have
Beautiful.
the,
So
oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Love offerings and donations. As you can see the screen, you can donate to Cash App. It's a Spirit of a Woman. Then you have Zelly and Quick Pay. Sal Leadership Development at gmail.com. Please, the code there is 366OH. So please, if you want to show some love offerings, that will be mostly appreciated. Donations would be very, very appreciated.
And let me just jump in here and remind the community that, we practice the law of reciprocity. So in the same spirit of you giving so freely, openly, and vulnerably, Owen, we encourage community members to do the same and to use these handles in order to do so. So thank you for the gifts, the energy that you're going to exchange with the community, with today's facilitator. We thank you in advance for those gifts and encourage you to continue to share that energy so we can continue growing here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate being on. Absolutely.
Yes.
I have a question. Is in reference to your offer, Owen, is it live and virtual?
Yes, it'll be live and it'll be virtual. It'll be virtual. I'll be doing it from my home gym, so it'll be. I can send out the Zoom information, and it could be virtual. Absolutely, it will be, and I'll be live. I'll be sweating with you.
Okay, thank you.
And coming up on Monday, we have Math is a Language Best Spoken in Creativity, Part 2, and that'll be facilitated by Angela Bell. And then on Tuesday, the 13th, we have Sickness is a Choice. What are you choosing? And that is going to be facilitated by Hattie McCutcheon. So please, please, please join. I'm sure that they are going to be amazing, amazing presentations. And that's what's coming up next for Wake Up.
Thank you, Owen. And to all of you out there who are new in the space, please let us know you're new. I did recognize some, or I saw that I did not recognize some names. So I'm going to assume that you are new, but don't let me assume. Drop it in the chat so that not just to drop it in the chat, but just so that we can acknowledge you. So you could be here and be quiet, but you can also be here and be heard and seen. So that's the preference. And do come back. Today is just one of many days into the future that we have to share Wake Up Everybody with you. So come learn and experience. So we're here 5 days a week. Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday are our long days from 7 to 8:30. And Monday and Wednesday are our short days from 7 to 7:30. We're always in Zoom, streaming live on Facebook. And we now have these alerts that you can sign up for. So if you text Woo Nation, the word Woo Nation in the comment section to the number 74121, so that will go in the to section of your text. Then you will be put into a series of alerts or notifications to remind you about these events that happen on our 5 days. And we have Woo Swag. You can get your Woo Swag at bit.ly/Woo Swag, sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs, and masks, and more soon. And we invite you to stay in touch. As I shared before, you need to register every week so that you can get the new lineup of presenters. To do that is bit.ly/Wake Up Movement. You'll get an email, so you look out for the emails every time that you register. you will get the information you need to join. And we have a Facebook group and we have a Facebook page. We have been going live on the Facebook page, not by our choice, but that is what Zoom and Facebook are doing for us now. So if you want to communicate with us, that's where we'll be. However, we have a group, a Facebook group, where our history of presentations are there and communications with other members. So that's bit.ly/WOO community. That's how you would join the Facebook group. And by the way, the Facebook page is open to the public. The group is private. Instagram and YouTube, you can catch us there. We're going to be needing some support with building that out, but we are there right now. And email, you can contact us at info.wakeupseries@gmail.com. So with that, I'm going to stop the share and we all can do our love shower. I've asked you all to unmute. And Owen, thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you
for
once
this
again.
very
Enlightening.
Bill, as always.
conversation. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Needed conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely worthy to consider and to think about and to implement. Thank you for all the information. We've got to change the way we think about mental health and the use of marijuana. Ashe. Ashe.
Thank you for enlightening us further about how we could be more understanding about our brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.